Hi everyone, it is April 22nd right now. A little bit of a gloomy morning. It's been like that for pretty much most of the month of April. Gets a bit sunny once it gets closer to noon. And I was going to show you guys some of my seedlings that are blooming right now, especially the one that's a little bit unique, the non-Autophos, the non-cants. But let's kind of start off with the first one. This is a Pickering seedling right here. Pickering is mono-embryonic. I started this seedling out in a 1 gallon in summer of 2023. Okay, it started out in summer 2023, and then by spring of 2024, I put it in the ground. Okay, it's growing really nicely, and so you're talking about a plant that then it's not even 2 years old yet and it's blooming. I was really hoping to not have blooms, just because I wanted to get a bit more size, but it is still young, and even though these younger plants are blooming, these seedlings, specifically seedlings, they tend to do have some blooms, but still have a bit of vigor, at least for the first several years. So I'm hoping to remove these blooms a little bit later and have it push some vegetation. But this is a Pickering seedling that's blooming. Next up is a honeykiss seedling that's blooming. This is a polyembryonic variety. So there is 2 or 3 trunks on here of various heights. The largest one right here did not bloom or anything like that. And if I was to guess, and this is a pure guess because I have not been able to distinguish which one's the pollinated versus the clones with like 100% accuracy. I can't really do that on some of the poly ones because of the different smells of the leaf. I can, but this one I can't. They all smell about the same. So my guess would be this most vigorous one is the pollinated trunk, that came from the pollinated embryo, and the other smaller ones are the clones. So let's take a look at this one. Here is a bloom right here, and again, this was started around the same time as the Pickering seedlings, all like summer of 2023. So here's another example of one that's blooming. And again, it's not like all my seedlings are blooming, right? Because I did start out tons and tons of seedlings in 2023, but it's just unique to see that. Not that unique, I guess. It's still a little common to see it happen where it blooms this early. Usually, it had blooms, 2.5, 3 years. This is a little bit earlier than usual, but it's not like I've never had it before on any of like the Autophos seedlings, which I have had. Alright, so up next is an M4 seedling. And unlike the Pickering that you've seen, unlike the honeykiss that you've seen, this was started at the same time. That's summer 2023, but this did not go into the ground until this year. So the other 2 was planted in the ground in 2024, spring of 2024. This one was just planted in the ground a couple weeks ago. And the first year I had it, not even the first year, but it was like that spring of the following year, I had moved it into a 15 gallon. So this was in the 15 gallon of last year. So it's in a 15 gallon of last year, and I planted it in the ground this year just because it has grown really vigorously. 3 nice trunk. If you guys are not familiar with M4 is a polyembryonic variety. So it is a polyembryonic variety. Can I tell which one's the clone and which one's the pollinate? I cannot tell, at least on this. So I've been putting down into the ground a lot of my trees of the polyembryonic varieties, ones where I couldn't distinguish which one was the clone or which one was the pollinate, not with like 100% accuracy. The other ones, I mean, there's been ones that I've shown you guys in the past that I have been able to clearly, almost with 100% accuracy tell you which one was the pollinated tree that came from the embryo. These I cannot tell. So okay, so it's only this one out of the three that is blooming so far, which is kind of a bit unique. So see, okay, so this is M4 again, blooming at, gosh, you know, you're talking about start out summer. It's about like not even 2 years, right? Closer to like 22 months. So up next, here's one that makes a little bit more sense, right? So this one is a Sunperry seedling. So this is a blooming Sunperry seedling. I'm not sure of the exact age of this because I did get this from my friend a couple years ago. She gave it to me. You know, thanks, Diana. So she gave me the seedling, and she had it for a couple years already. So my guess is that this seedling might be, you know, between 5 and 6 years old. So this is blooming for the first time. I've really liked how kind of clean this Sunperry seedling is. I did spray, but it's still impressive that it's, you know, pretty clean. Here's the trunk on this guy right here. Pretty decent trunk. So this one is one that makes a bit more sense, like why it's blooming, right? Just because it is a little bit older. It's in a pot, but a little bit older. Okay, up next is some Kent seedlings that are blooming for the first time. These Kent seedlings were started out in fall of 2022. So these guys are at least a little bit older than some of the ones you've seen I just showed you guys, like, you know, about a year older. So it's definitely over 2.5 years, getting close to 3 years, but not quite 3 years yet. So this is one, look, it's loaded with fruitlets. Very strange, unusual blooms. Probably kind of, you know, the cool, colder, fungal weather kind of maybe caused it to do some funky stuff. But look at it. So maybe I have a bunch of, I guess, I kind of just threw it all together. I think there's about 6 or 7 Kent seedlings on the same kind of planting hole, and at least out of this one, 2 of them is blooming. So you see this one's blooming, this one's blooming. Okay, really gotta kind of clean up. I don't really recommend Kent as a rootstock for you guys, but if you guys would like to experiment it, go on right ahead. I always felt that they grow really good the first year, but then they kind of just slow after the first year or so, and they just don't handle our soil and climate as well as like an Autophos. But here's an example of ones that's blooming. Also monoembryonic, right? So these are monoembryonic. Lots of times I do get the questions, hey, you know, does the polyembryonic varieties bloom faster than the monoembryonic variety? And you know, it's sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. You know, it's just depends. I think the polyembryonic variety, I can only speak for Autophos because I had the longest experience with that. That tends to be a bit more consistent, right? They tend to kind of like bloom, like, you know, majority of them tends to kind of bloom early. But these are examples of monoembryonic that are blooming early too, but it's not like the majority of them. So maybe next year the rest of these will bloom. I don't know. I'm not really sure what I'm going to be doing with these, and I'm not sure I'm going to let it set fruit or whatnot. But we'll see what happens. So this is one of the patch of that. I do have another patch that is also has one that's blooming. Let me show you guys that one right now. Here's another one, and also start out the same time as the other one. Like I mentioned, that fall of 2022, and here you go. Here's one that's blooming. This one seems to be a little bit less clean, a bit some poly mildew on it. There's about probably like 8 or 9 plants out of here, right? And here's another one, another tiny one that is also blooming. So I mean, from this kind of experiment, I would say about 15-20% of the monoembryonic cants have bloomed in like a little over 2.5 years. So who knows? I don't know if this will apply to all you guys or if it's because of a pretty cool winter we had this year. So not sure what is triggering it. So that's kind of what I had so far. These cants, I'll show you guys the Autophos, and then I'll talk a little bit more about potted versus unpotted. So this was in the ground. These and that last one I showed you was in the ground since last year of early spring of last year. So, but besides then, it was in a 15-gallon kind of community pot with all the rest of these Kent seedlings. And I kind of just took it out, put it in the ground. I was kind of weeding out my Kent seedlings. I don't really kind of prefer it as rootstock, so that's what I'm just kind of putting in the ground, seeing how it does. You can see it's kind of a little bit pretty bad shape. I'll try to give it a bit more fertilizer this year and see what happened, but it definitely doesn't seem to hold up as well as my Autophos. That's my own experience. Your mileage may vary depending on where you're at, which part of California you're at, and so forth. Okay, so here is an Autophos seedling. Started out again, same time around summer, fall of 2022 as the cants. Except for this, I removed these just last year out of the community pot, which was a 15-gallon with a bunch of seeds in it, seedlings in it, and I put them all into individual pots. I had about, probably I would say about over a dozen of them. I still have about 5 or so left, but the majority of them all bloomed, maybe except for 1 or 2, but they all bloomed. So you could see kind of like Autophos blooming. Unfortunately, I can't show you all of them because I did give away about, I still have about 5 left, but I gave quite a bit away this year. So these are the 2022 ones. That's one plant. I'll show you guys some more. Here's another one, also blooming. Here's another one. It's also blooming. So majority of these did bloom, and they had quite a bit of space, you know, their own 15-gallon pots. So the next thing I want to talk to you guys about is I get asked often, is it the restriction on the pot that causes the blooming? That might be the case maybe for some certain trees. I know it does happen with a lot of other subtropical and tropicals. In this case, I don't think it made a difference, just from what I've seen. I don't think the restriction of the pot size made the difference. As you can see, this is just in a pretty large 15-gallon. They still bloomed, right? And this was started in 2022. So quite a bit of the Autophos blooms, but the mono embryonic canics, which was all condensed like in that one planting hole, right? That one didn't, not all of them bloomed. So, you know, I can't really say with certainty if there's any of the root restriction that's causing it to bloom. And if that's the case, I think I would have a bit more. There's some more Autophos. You see this blooms right there. If that's the case, I would think I would see a bit more of bloomings in these 15 gallons. Where can you see this? See how many seedlings is in here? What I do with this one was unlike the ones I showed you that was starting in 2022, these were starting in 2023, and I just throw them on the same pots, you know, big 15 gallon, and then later on, you know, not forget about it, but you know, I don't really spend too much time on them. Like this year, I'll be separating this out into individual pots. But you would think like the restrictions on something like this, the root restriction on this would kind of lead to a lot more blooming, right? You know, but this is started a year later. It was started in 2023, but there's no bloom on this. None of this has any bloom. All these were started in 2023, you know, and you could definitely say that, you know, the roots are pretty restricted because they're all sharing one 15-gallon pot. So you know, it's not blooming, so I can't really say that. That might be a factor in it, but at least on this one, at least in these experiments I had, I don't think it has been a factor. So okay guys, well, that is an update on all these seedlings that are blooming for the first time. So we'll see what happens. Maybe in the future they kind of develop some good fruits, maybe not. The Autophos will probably be consistently producing the same kind of fruit, but the other ones, we'll see what happens with them. So I'll give you guys, keep you guys updated. Thanks.